Be honest. When was the last time you thought about your current business insurance policy? If your existing business insurance policy is renewing on autopilot each year without checking out Zensurance, you're probably spending more than you need. That's why you need to switch to low-cost coverage from Zensurance before your policy renews this year. Zensurance does all the heavy lifting to find a policy, covering only what you need, and policies start at only $19 per month. So if your policy is renewing soon, go to Zensurance.com and buy your policy online in just a few minutes. Zensurance, mind your business.
I'm Abby Sharp, and I'm a registered dietitian on a mission to dismantle diet culture. Yes, that insidious multi-billion-dollar business keeping us on a never-ending hamster wheel of hating our bodies, fearing food, and spending our hard-earned money on a seemingly impossible mission to live our best, or more accurately, thinnest lives. On my new podcast, Bite Back with Abby Sharp, I'll be using my signature science and sass to debunk myths, call out the charlatans, and take down the endless barrage of BS bombarding us every day. Tune in each week as I'm joined by guests for expert interviews, engaging conversations, and science-backed information to help you leave diet culture behind for good. Listen on the Frequency Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
Christmas is now less than a month away, and the financial reality of the holidays may be setting in for a lot of us. We have to buy gifts for friends and family, make sure we have snacks and booze for that holiday party, get food for family dinner, and make sure the kids have enough warm clothes for the deep freeze we'll undoubtedly get in the first couple of months of next year. Well, the Trudeau government says it wants to help with that. Late last week, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced a tax holiday. For 2 months starting December 14th, he wants to scrap the GST or HST on a variety of goods.
All groceries, off of restaurants and takeout and fast food, off of toys, off of children's clothes, off beer and wine. These are things that are going to help Canadians as they approach not just Christmas and the holidays, but the beginning of the new year as well. We know people are under pressure. This is there to help them.
The feds are also looking to hand out $250 checks to 18.7 million working Canadians through a new one-time rebate that will go out in the spring. To qualify, you need to have been working and made less than $150,000 net income in 2023. The opposition leader, Conservative Pierre Poilievre, is not impressed.
A 2-month temporary tax trick that will not make up for the permanent quadrupling carbon tax.
The NDP has signaled it will support the GST change, even though it doesn't go as far as they had hoped, and may agree to a one-day pause in a privilege debate that has gridlocked Parliament in order to get it passed. However, Jagmeet Singh is demanding the new rebate be expanded.
The checks are being excluded from some of the most vulnerable Canadians, from seniors, from people living with disabilities, and from students. It is a slap in the face.
So, is this all a good idea, or is the government just trying to buy your vote with less than a year to go until the next election? I'm Cormac Mac Sweeney, and today on The Big Story, we're diving deeper into the GST cuts and new working rebate with Kevin Page, the president of the Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy at the University of Ottawa and a former parliamentary budget officer. So, Kevin, thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure to be with you, Cormac.
Your initial thoughts when you saw this announcement from the federal government?
Well, my initial thoughts was, surprise. It wasn't something that was expected. I think most of us saw Parliament somewhat dysfunctional in recent months. And a lot of us were waiting for an economic and fiscal update. And I think, just the idea that we'd provide this amount of stimulus to Canadians at this particular time of year, what came as a surprise.
So what does that tell you then about the policies that were announced by the federal government? Is this good public policy, or do you see this mainly as a political move?
Yeah, Cormac, I think this is primarily political. I couldn't imagine Department of Finance officials going to the finance minister, the deputy prime minister, and saying we need to provide additional stimulus at this particular juncture. I do see this, as political. I think when we read the pages of newspapers, international papers, we see governments really struggling, incumbent governments. And, the issue that comes up over and over again is affordability. We saw that in the U.S. election. We saw that in European elections. And, we know that in the case of Canada, the Liberal government is far behind in the polls. We're less than a year away from an election. And I think this is the government trying to connect with citizens with a bit of a relief on the affordability side.
What a lot of our listeners want to know is, how does this impact me? How is this going to help or hinder me in any way? So what are the pros and cons of the GST cuts and this rebate, and who does it apply to and who's left out of all of this?
Well, I think the pro is the biggest pro, Cormac, I think, is that it's a very broad canvas, it's going to touch a lot of people. If people want to know, we don't have legislation in front of the House right now, but if we go to the Prime Minister's press release, you get to see the details. All of us are going to grocery stores. Some of us have, grandchildren we'll be buying clothes for, or toys for kids or grandkids. Most of us, are purchasing various types of alcohol to celebrate the season. People are buying Christmas trees. All those things are covered. So everybody's going to get, from coast to coast to coast is going to get a cut with respect to the GST on that. For those harmonized provinces, Ontario and the Atlantic provinces, the cut could seem a little bit bigger than the non-harmonized provinces. I think with respect to the rebate that you highlighted, Cormac, the $250, it's, from what we see from the Prime Minister's press release, it goes up to individual net income of $150,000. So that really covers a lot of people. That's a lot of money in terms of individual net income. And so I think it's a pretty substantive break. And it obviously comes with a cost. The estimates from Department of Finance officials, we haven't seen the economic and fiscal update. It'll be a $6 billion hit with respect to that it's being deficit financed. So this kind of money is definitely consumption related, which means there'll be no sort of, your future taxpayers, our kids, grandkids, will be paying higher interest costs as a result of this additional subsidy on consumption. But yeah, I think the biggest pro is that it's a lot of people, we're all going to benefit by it almost in one way or another. Certainly all of us through the GST, and most people with respect to the $250 rebate. Again, the con is will it slow down interest rate reductions? Wouldn't it have been better to put this money into healthcare or, into something, into energy transition, or even, to deficit reduction at this particular time? Because, if we get another fiscal shock, there are some people that are concerned that we don't have the buffers in order to withstand the shock as we've seen that we had in 2020 and 2008. So there are a couple of cons as well. I think the cons from a policymaker perspective outweigh the pros. I think from a political perspective, I think the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister are really hoping that this will give them a boost in the polls, and honestly to citizens that are really that they are stretched.
And on the $250 rebate, are there cons into who gets left out? I understand that people on disability may not be accessible to this rebate.
My guess is that when we see the legislation, potentially through, again, an economic and fiscal update, we'll see a draft Ways and Means. So we'll see that some of the details that Parliaments will vote on. But they'll deal with, the government and the finance officials will do their best to make sure that everybody's covered, that makes less than that amount of income. So, I think I heard the leader of the official opposition say it's kind of hard, to opine on a press release. But I think we probably will have to wait and see some more details when we get that economic and fiscal update with the Ways and Means motion.
When we talk about $150,000 net income, does that mean as well that some people who make more than $150,000 will still be able to get this because it's net income and it's only after deductions and other things that they could potentially write off to bring their net income down to $150,000? Is that correct? So people making more than $150,000 a year could still get this $250 check?
Yes, you're correct, Cormac. It's on a net basis, so people can have gross incomes well above $150,000 and still benefit from the $250 rebate. a lot of people will receive the rebate.
More on the big story with former Parliamentary Budget Officer Kevin Page talking about the GST holiday and new rebate checks in just a moment.
Ah, small business owner. So you wish to be at one with your enterprise. First, you must attain inner peace of small business insurance. This is Zensurance.
If you're self-employed, an entrepreneur, or a contractor, peace of mind is just a click away at Zensurance.com, Canada's leading source for small business insurance. It's quick, easy, and affordable. Get an instant price today at Zensurance.com.
You said you were surprised by this. Given the economic situation the country is in, what will this mean to our finances?
So, I think our finances overall are relative to other countries are in not bad shape. I think we're going to hear that from the finance minister, where I think from the Parliamentary Budget Office, they gave us a bit of an early snapshot on an economic and fiscal update. The economy is probably a little bit stronger than we thought in 2024 than what was assumed in budget 2025, but we're expecting to see a deficit that's going to be a little bit higher than the government's estimates. So we're probably seeing a deficit somewhere at about the $45-46 billion range in 23-24 and 24-25, which is about $5-6 billion higher on an annual basis. So it means I think the government is going to have a hard time hitting its fiscal targets. So then you overlay that with a relatively large calendar year-end fiscal stimulus package. They're just going to miss, their chances of hitting their targets in 25, 26 are going down.
We're just getting through a cost of living crisis. There's been an argument in the past when other governments have done this. I was in Alberta when Ralph Klein handed out his $400 checks, and there was an argument that was not good public policy for just sending money out. The money could have been better spent through the government in different ways, and it could just add to the inflation crisis the province was already seeing. Now, the whole country is dealing with this. Could these $250 checks and the GST breaks potentially impact inflation in that way and sort of lengthen out our cost of living issues and challenges that we're seeing right now, especially when you see Ontario making a similar promise for the new year? Yeah,
I think it's like you definitely it will have an impact on demand. It'll have an impact, on prices, a modest impact. I don't think it fundamentally changes the trajectory of the rates of increases of prices. I think it's taken us a while, but we're down in that kind of zone, the Bank of Canada zone, the target of 2%. The latest indicator we got from Statistics Canada, CPI year-over-year basis rate at 2%. The government Bank of Canada's policy interest rate at 3.75. It's come down from 5%, but we still have a long ways to go on mortgage rates and other other household rates. So we it's important that we get these interest rates down. I don't know, but I'm hoping that that the governor of the Bank of Canada and his colleagues see fit that we are comfortable. Expectations have come down on prices, that we can continue to see, another interest rate adjustment, at least 25 basis points. And I think, even 50 basis points you're very much welcome. So yeah, we wouldn't want monetary and fiscal policy to be moving in opposite directions, particularly at this time. Canadians have paid a big price to get inflation down, back down to 2% in terms of those high interest rates. So we got to get those interest rates down because it's really hurting investment. And we probably need investment more than consumption at this time in terms of future growth.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time today.
Pleasure, Cormac.
That was Kevin Page, the president of the Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy and a former parliamentary budget officer, talking with us about the GST holiday from the federal government and a new working rebate. Reminder about a new great listening experience for you. You can listen anytime to the Big Story podcast on Seeker. That's SEEKR. I'm Cormac Mac Sweeney. Thanks for listening.
Ah, small business owner. So you wish to be at one with your enterprise. First, you must attain inner peace of small business insurance. This is Zensurance.
If you're self-employed, an entrepreneur, or a contractor, peace of mind is just a click away at zensurance.com, Canada's leading source for small business insurance. It's quick, easy, and affordable. Get an instant price today at zensurance.com.